Tonight we'll take a look at a fishing rod builder who's turned his hobby into a UP success story.
Eskimo Ice Fishing reached out to me about co-branding an ice rod for them, so it'll be an Eskimo Series Mags rod.
Then a quick look at how a flintlock works. And a UP deer hunting success story. Stick around, that's all tonight, right here on Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
It wasn't long ago I visited with Pat Magdaleno, who was making fishing rods in his basement.
Lots to learn though. I've been building for less than a year. I've probably done about 70 rods. I'm still learning a ton. It's fun though. I enjoy it.
Well, 4 years later, he's still enjoying it, but in a much bigger way. He's no longer in his basement, and that 70 rods has turned into thousands. I stopped in at his shop in Gwinn for an update on Mag's custom rods.
So I started rod building in 2017 just for a hobby because I was looking for a specific rod that I couldn't find. And I had a friend mention something about building one. And then once I finished it, I had a handful of my friends who were interested in getting them. And then it just turned from, the first 2 years I would say it was a hobby. I didn't have anyone helping me, it was just me. And then once I kind of realized that I could turn it into maybe a business or something I could do for a living, then I hired my first employee just over 2 years ago now. And ever since I did that and started to promote, it's been a full-time gig for me and 5 other people. But yeah, I started in a 10 by 10 room that was just full of my stuff, my fishing stuff, and I just had a little spot put away for building a couple rods here and there. And almost 5 years later, and now we currently have an 8,000 square foot facility for building rods specifically. So it's been a cool journey. Eskimo Ice Fishing, which is like probably the top 2 biggest ice fishing company in the world, reached out to me about co-branding an ice rod for them. So it'll be a Eskimo Series Mags rod. And they reached out and I was just like, this can't be real. And just about a month ago, we started an order for them. And just, to have a company of that caliber reach out to, a smaller company like me in the middle of the UP, in the middle of nowhere, it just makes me feel so good. All the hard work is actually starting to pay off, that companies like that are, looking to get product from me. So they will be selling them exclusively on their website. So you will not be able to get those through me, but it'll be a co-branded Eskimo Series Mags rod. So this is where the process of building a rod starts. For the custom side, we have all these different styles of cork. So we get that from Portugal, high-end cork, and then we glue them together, and that's what it looks like after we glue it. And then we'll put it on a lathe, and we'll turn it down to make a finished product. And we inset every butt so we can put our logo in there. The cork on the rod, and then we started off with a drywall rasp just to get the bulk off. And then we go to 100 grit, then 200, and then we finish with a 320. And then we polish it with steel wool. It just gets the dust off and just polishes it nice. And then we finish it with a cork seal. We can literally do any kind of handle. We can do a spay handle, a 14-inch spay. We can do a little ice rod handle, and we can do any shape that you want. And all this stuff is available on our website, so you can design an ice rod from top to bottom. And then once we're done in this room, we go to the gluing process. A lot of guys don't want to wait, 2 weeks for a custom rod, so we came out with this is a hard EVA foam with the soft touch rubber grip with the fish scale pattern. So we have these in black, green, orange, and white. And we have these in stock at all times in 8 different models for ice rods, and then 10 different models for open waters. Yeah, that Eskimo grip came out super cool. It's got a custom stitching in there, the same plaid pattern that they use, some nice detail in it. So I'm really, really excited for the launch of those. They'll come in 4 models. We'll have a 28 and a 32-inch panfish rod, and then a 32 and a 36-inch walleye perch rod. And like I said earlier, they'll be exclusively on Eskimo's website. The glue takes 10 to 12 hours to dry, but we try to give it 24. So we'll glue them, and then the next day we'll tie them. He's tying Eskimo rods, so he's more of our production tire, and Alex does more of our custom tying. But right now we're putting the orders on hold for the next few days so we can try to get the rest of these rods tied up so we can hit our delivery date and put these on the market, because I'm really excited to get them out there. I know a lot of companies are really struggling to get product this year. I was really lucky to be able to get mine at an efficient time. It was a little bit late, but we got it before ice, which is what matters. I work with about 15 retailers that we sell rods to, and every one of them are saying that they can't get rods, they can't get ice shacks, they can't get stuff. So I think it's a perfect time for me to break into the industry even a little bit more, because I know I have a pretty good stock on product right now, which I'm excited for. So we do 2 different styles of eyes. We do recoil and steel, but every single eye that we put on a rod, we grind it down, because if you tie this on, that's kind of a blunt tip right there, so the thread doesn't climb onto that very well. So every single eye that we put on a rod, we sand it so it goes nicely, the thread wraps nicely on it onto the blank. You thin it out a little bit, and you take it off a little bit off the sides and the top. The transition to the thread to the blank is just so much nicer. Taper it at the end so the thread transitions a lot cleaner. There's no gaps, it's nice and smooth. It takes a lot more time, but the end result is way nicer. So that is a big job in itself, but it just kind of, it looks so much better and it's way better quality. If you think about, there's 5 to 6 eyes on one rod and you do 10,000 of them, that's almost a full-time job of just grinding guides, which isn't the most ideal job, but it's part of the job, and that's why we're top quality. So after the rods get tied, we have them straighten all the guides and make sure everything's straight, and then they come into this room, and this is the finish room. So we put 2 coats of epoxy on every single rod. We put 1, and then the next day we come and do the second coat, and we got Phil doing the epoxy. He's been with me the longest, over 2 years now, and when I'm gone, he can kind of run the show and make sure everything gets done right. So this is a homemade drum dryer. It's actually worked great for me for a couple years now. So when you epoxy that, if you don't move them, that epoxy is going to sag, and having 100 dryers that are individual is really expensive, and it takes up a lot of room. So right there, we're drying 16 rods at a time, and they dry nice and even on that wheel. It's got a 6 RPM motor, so it's not going too fast or too slow. It's just the perfect RPM. And then you leave them on there for about 5 hours, and you can shut them off, but it's a full cure of 24. I don't like to ship anything out unless it's been 24 hours. So tomorrow, those will be ready to go, and we're gonna start packing those up and getting ready to deliver those to Eskimo in Wisconsin. A few weeks we've been filling up every rack. Every rack can hold 16 rods, and we have 7 of them. So we've been close to doing almost 100 a day. So this is our open water dryers. We have 40 of them. This time of year, we're doing a handful of steelhead rods and some walleye and bass rods, but like in the springtime, these are typically what we use. We're actually gonna have a drum dryer, like a big one, a 42-inch. We'll have that in the spring. That'll do spin 80 rods. Same concept as the ice rod dryer, but it will spin 80 open water rods at a time, which will take up a lot of room, but it'll be really nice and efficient. And so I'm excited to get that. He does the quality control in there. Before anything leaves the epoxy room, it has to pass him. And then I have her doing it as well. So we have a quality control twice just to make sure that nothing gets sent out that's not right. So once they come in here, they're ready to ship or they're in stock. So this is like our retail or shipping department. We do build any kind of rod that you can catch fish on. So right here, our lake trout jigging rods, we have these in spinning and casting. So we do those, and then we have our bass rods here. Designed this rod, it took me 1.5 to 2 years to actually finally come out with a finished product and, you know, fish it, test it. So this is a 7.4 heavy. This is for throwing frogs, whopper ploppers, or flipping heavy cover. And then we have some steelhead rods, some customs, and some stocks. So this was one of our top sellers this summer. So this is a 6-foot light action. It's good for pretty much everything, but I designed it more for panfish, brook trout, but you can catch bass and perch and all that stuff on it as well. And it's actually a pack rod, and it's not a really cheap pack rod. It's really high quality rod, really light, but it breaks down 4 times, which is about 18 inches. So this will actually go in your backpack if you're hiking or on a kayak or whatever you're doing. So you could put that in there. It doesn't take up no room. You get to your spot, put it together, and you're fishing with a high quality rod. Our walleye rods we have in, we have a 6.2 medium, a 6.8 medium, and then we have a 7.2 medium, a 6.10 medium light, a 7.2 medium light, and then a 7.6 medium light. So every rod is for a different technique. And we just started color coding them. When they're on your deck, they were all black before, so you didn't know what you were grabbing. So now I have all my medium lights labeled as a chartreuse and our mediums as an orange. Makes it easier to see what you're grabbing on your deck. The support from the industry has been amazing, and I'm just super grateful that this actually happened. It's pretty much like a dream come true. Like, I never imagined that I could make a fishing pole and, you know, actually people want to buy it. So it's pretty exciting, and the way things are growing right now, the sky's the limit. Like, my goals just keep getting bigger every year. Without an amazing team, then I would still be doing this as a hobby like it started, but I have an awesome team and great support system, and things are going really well.
The term flintlock refers to a firearm that uses a flint striking mechanism. They date back to the 16th century. Here's a look.
Thompson Center, 50 caliber Hawkins, and you can tell it's something a little bit extra different there. We got a flintlock. This one's got 2 sets of triggers. This one here is for the set for the hair trigger up front. You use that a lot for target shooting, so that way you don't wiggle quite as much, and that turns the front trigger into a hair trigger. This particular brand is GoX 2FG, which is the type that we use for rifles. There is a 1F, which is used for cannons. There's a 3F, kind of a halfway in between powder, between pistols and rifles. And then there's a 4F, which is what we use to prime the flintlock. So let's load it up. Take the 2F. This here's your powder measure. My particular gun likes 90 grains of black powder. Pour your powder into the measure till she tops off. Drop a little bit extra in the can. Then what we do is I tap it just a little bit. Swing the lid over. If there would have been any extra powder on that, of course it would have brushed it off. Drop the powder in. Give it a couple extra taps just to make sure she's got everything out. Everything's gone. Now we put the patched round ball. This one's 15 thousandths thick. That just goes over the muzzle. That just gets put in the center of the patch. Try to get it as close in the middle as you can. I'll thumb start it just so it kind of sticks. Take the ball starter, push it down a little bit. That'll get her going a little bit more. Then this is called the ramrod. That goes down into there, pushes the ball all the way down. There. There's the line right here that I push it down to. That way I know that the ball is all the way down onto the powder. Just a couple little hints. You don't want to take like a hammer and pound it down into there, or you don't want to use a ton of pressure putting the ball on top of the powder on a flintlock. A flintlock mainly has to burn the powder slowly to get it to go. Where if you shoot a percussion cap or the inlines, those you can put more pressure on it, but it has to be consistently. The flintlock has to burn the powder at a different rate to get it to go, to get it to fire fast. You'll find out once we touch it off. Now we got her all set up on the bench. We have to prime it, it's called. So we have to put the 4F powder into the frizzen. So you drop a little bit of powder in there. That's the frizzen. Close her up. Make sure our flint is all even. Because what happens is when I pull the trigger on it, the hammer comes down, it strikes the frizzen, which then ignites the pan. You've got all types of stuff going on here.
Mid-rifle season, I caught up with an Ironwood woman who has shot the biggest buck of her life so far.
Opener rifle, obviously, sat all day, saw no horns. Sat every day, morning and night, passed a few small bucks. So last night, Tuesday night, well, 2:15, me and my daughter went to the stand. She's 7. We sat and it was windy. Very windy. I didn't expect to see a doe. And I had a small button buck come in for a little bit, and I saw a body come in from the right, a bigger body, and put the binoculars on it. I could see a rack. So I got ready, told her, get ready. And he was jittery, he was nervous, which made me more nervous. But he finally made his way in and shot him. He went 25 yards and called my husband and my son, who's 4, and they came, and amazing. I mean, truly one of a lifetime for me. So my definite biggest by far. It scored 130, 19 and a half inches wide. It only weighed 160. This buck has been spotted all over, and making its rounds. So it's well known, and it just happened to come across me at the right time. I'm just the lucky one that night. I'm thankful. The best part about it is my daughter was with me, and she actually started hunting last year through the mentor program. And she shot a buck last year with a crossbow, an 8-pointer, a nice 8-pointer, and she shot another one this year with the crossbow. I was shaking. She never saw me shake like that before, and we had some tears, and it was great.
Well, that's it for this week. Be sure to check out 906outdoors.com, where you'll find the 906 fishing report, TV6 weather, shopping, and more. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next week right here on Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.